Hello and welcome everyone. In today's session, we will be discussing again another important topic of English grammar, that is active and passive voice. Now, before we talk about active and passive voice, let us just go back to verb, right? So what is a verb? A verb is an action word. For example, playing, dancing, studying, all these are action words, isn't it? So we term them as verbs, right? Further, let us take a look at the different properties of verbs. So what are the different properties of verb? Person, number, tense, voice and mood. Today, we will be focusing on this property of verb, that is voice, right? Further, we learn that the verb in a sentence can be in active voice or in passive voice. So it is all about verb. The verb can either be in active voice or it can be in passive voice. Now let us see how. Now, every sentence has a subject and an object. So who's the subject? The doer of the action, that is the person or whoever is performing the action is the subject. And what is the object? Whoever is receiving the action, right? So the receiver of the action is the object. For example, the guard opened the gate. Now here in this sentence, the action is being performed by the guard. So this is the subject. And the gate is the receiver of this action, isn't it? The guard is opening the gate. So the gate is the receiver. So this is the object. I hope this much is clear to you. So subject, the performer of the sentence, and object, the receiver of the action. So I hope subject and object is now clear to everyone. So subject here and object. Similarly, in this sentence, the lion killed the deer. So where is the subject? Who's performing the action? Yes, it's the lion who is performing the action. So the lion is the subject. And who's receiving the action? That is the deer. The deer is receiving the action performed by the subject, that is the lion, right? So the deer is the object and the lion is the subject. Now, the point to focus is the subject, that is who is performing the action, is at the subject's place, and the receiver, that is, whoever is receiving the action is at the object's place. So, if this is the structure, then the verb is said to be in active voice, right? That means the performer at the subject's place and the receiver at the object's place. I hope this much is clear to all of you. Now, if I change the same sentences in a different structure, right? So, let's see. The gate was opened by the guard. Or maybe, the second sentence, the lion killed the deer. If we change the sentence, the structure of the sentence into the deer was killed by the lion. Now, in these two sentences, the meaning remains the same, but the structure undergoes a change, isn't that? Now here in these two sentences, we saw that the performer is at the subject's place and the receiver is at the object's place. But now, in these two sentences, what change do we find? Here, the receiver is at the subject's place. Who is receiving the action? Who's doing the action? Obviously, the guard. And the action is received by whom? Obviously, the gate, isn't that? But in this sentence, the gate is at the subject's place and the performer, that is the doer of the action, is at the object's place, right? So now can we notice the change in the structure of this sentence and this sentence? Here the subject is at the subject's place only, that is whoever is performing the action is at the subject's place only. But here, and here the receiver is at the object's place, isn't that? But in this sentence, when we look at this sentence, we see the object, the receiver of the action is at the subject's place and the performer is at the object's place. Similarly, when we take a look at the next sentence, here it is, the lion killed the deer. This is the subject, the performer, and this is the object, that is the receiver. Now here in this sentence, same sentence, when we change the structure, the deer was killed by the lion, the performer is over here and the receiver is over here. That is, the receiver is at the subject's place and the performer is at the object's place. So, when this is the structure, the performer is not at the subject's place but is at the object's place. I repeat, the performer, instead of being at the subject's place, when it is at the object's place, this is passive voice. Clear? So in passive voice, the receiver is at the subject's place and the performer is at the object's place. So this is passive voice. I hope this much is clear to all of you. So, what is the basic structure of the sentences in active and passive voice? Subject, verb, object. Now, subject, at subject's place, the performer is there, and at the object's place, the receiver is there. This is active voice. And the structure of sentences in passive voice is again the same. Subject, verb, object. But at the subject's place, the receiver is there, and at the object's place, the performer is there. I hope this much is clear to each one of you. The concept is clear by now. Now further, we'll take a look at the rules which are followed when we change sentences from active voice to passive voice. The first rule says the subject and object interchange. So this is what we discussed just now. The subject and the object interchanges their places when the sentence is converted from active voice to passive voice. In active voice, the performer is the subject, whereas in passive voice, the receiver is the subject, isn't it? I hope this much is clear to all of you. The second rule says preposition by is added. So when the sentence is changed from active voice to passive voice, the preposition by is added, right? Now the third rule says verb changes to its past participle form. Now what is the past participle form? The third form of the verb, as for example, if we say go, went, gone, right? So go is in present form, went is the past form, and gone is the past participle form. So that third form, that is the past participle form, is used in the passive voice, right? Further, it says, rule number 4 says a new auxiliary is added. What is auxiliary? A helping verb. So, which helping verbs are added? Am, is, are, was, were. So, these are the auxiliary verbs which are added in the passive voice. Now, let us see all these rules through a sentence. Reena plays tennis. This sentence is in active voice, right? Now, let us study the sentence. Reena is the performer and is at the subject's place. And tennis is the receiver of the action. It's at the object's place. Clear? So, this is active voice. Now, when it is changed into passive voice, tennis becomes the subject, right? That is the receiver. Fine. The object of the active voice becomes the subject of the passive voice. They interchange. They are interchanging their places. And what about Reena, which is the subject of the active voice, becomes the object of the passive voice. So, I hope all of you can see how the subject and object of active and passive voice, they have interchanged their places. Now let us study the second rule. Preposition by is added. So we have added the preposition by, and where is it added? Just before the object of the passive voice. Third rule, verb changes to its past participle form. So, the verb here plays has changed to the past participle form. That is, play, played, played. The third form of the verb. And the fourth rule, a new auxiliary is added. So, this auxiliary is added over here in passive voice. So, I hope all these 4 rules are clear to all of you. Now let us further see the other rules. Next is rule number 5, which says if the sentence in the active voice is negative, right? That is, if the sentence in the active voice is negative, it would remain negative in passive voice. So, if the sentence of the active voice is negative, in passive voice, it's not that it will change into a positive sentence, right? It would remain negative only. And rule number 6 says, if the subject of active voice is a pronoun, it changes its form in passive voice. So, if the pronoun if a pronoun is there at the subject's place in active voice, when it changes into passive voice, it changes its form, right? The pronoun changes its form. Now let us see the different pronouns. If I is there, it would change to me. We changes to us. You and it, they remain the same, okay? He changes to him. She changes to her, and they changes to them. So, these are the 6 rules which should be kept in mind while changing an active voice, sentence in active voice to passive voice. Further, there are another 2 things to keep in mind. Very important points to be kept in mind. These are: number 1, only transitive verbs can take passive form. So, only those sentences where the verb is transitive, they can be changed into passive voice. Now, why is it so? Because there is no object in intransitive verbs, right? If a sentence has intransitive verb, there would not be any object, and since there is no object, the sentence cannot be changed into passive voice, right? And secondly, if the second point, if the subject of active voice is unimportant or unknown, right? If the subject of active voice is unimportant, not so much important, or if it is unknown, that is, we don't know the subject, then in that case, it is omitted in the passive voice. So, the subject of active voice, if unimportant or unknown, it's omitted when it is converted into passive voice. For example, someone picked my pocket. Now this sentence is in active voice, but here the subject is unknown, isn't it? The subject is not known. We don't know who the subject is. So in this case, when we change the sentence into passive voice, this subject can be omitted. So straight away it can be written as my pocket was picked. Now it is not at all necessary to write by someone, right? Secondly, another example, they signed the agreement. Here, in this case, signing of the agreement is more important than they. That is the subject. The action or the object is more important than the subject. So, when we are changing it into passive voice, this subject can be omitted. So, it can be directly written as the agreement was signed. By them is not necessary. Why is it so? Because signing of the agreement is more important than the subject, right? The performer. So I hope all the rules are clear to all of you, and by now all of you must have got a clear understanding of active and passive voice. So we'll conclude the session here. In the next session, we will talk about the same topic in further points. Thank you so much.